My husband's family treated me like a maid for 10 years. I scrubbed their floors, I cooked their meals, I endured their insults. Then they needed a kidney transplant, and a DNA test exposed the truth. I was the patriarch's biological daughter, and I just inherited $15 million. This is the story of how toxic in-laws created their own karma, and how a family secret destroyed everything they built. The day the DNA test results came back, I was standing in a hospital corridor. My mother-in-law, Mama Kemi, was on her knees begging me to donate my kidney to save her husband's life. My husband, Tunde, stood behind her, saying nothing. As usual. "Please, Amara," Mama Kemi sobbed. "You're a perfect match. You're the only one who can save Baba Dare." I looked down at the DNA report in my hands, the one they didn't know about, the one I'd ordered privately after their hospital's test came back. Match confirmed. 99.9% biological daughter. Not daughter-in-law, daughter. I should have cried. I should have screamed. But all I could do was smile. Because for 10 years, this woman had treated me like garbage. She'd called me the poor girl. She'd made me clean toilets while her real daughters sat in air-conditioned rooms. She'd convinced her son that I wasn't good enough to eat at the family table. And now she needed me to save her husband's life. The husband who was actually my father. The father who'd abandoned me 30 years ago. The father whose family had kept this secret to protect their precious reputation. "I'll donate the kidney," I said quietly. Mama Kemi's face lit up with relief. "But first," I continued, "there's something you need to know about this DNA test." Her smile froze. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My name is Amara Okonkwo. Well, that was my married name. My maiden name was Amara Adebayo, though I never knew my father growing up. My mother, Grace, raised me alone in a small 2-room apartment in Surulere, Lagos. She worked as a seamstress, sewing clothes for wealthy families while I did my homework by candlelight when NEPA took the power. Mom never talked about my father. When I asked as a child, she'd get this distant look in her eyes and say, "Some men aren't meant to be fathers, Amara, but you are meant for great things." I believed her. I worked hard in school. I won a scholarship to the University of Lagos. I studied accounting, determined to give my mother the life she deserved. That's where I met Tunde Adeyemi. He was handsome in an unremarkable way, quiet, gentle. He said he came from a comfortable family, but didn't like to brag. I appreciated that. In a university full of big men's sons showing off their father's money, Tunde seemed humble. We dated for 2 years. He was kind to me. He met my mother and was respectful. When he proposed in my final year, my mother cried happy tears. "He's a good man, Amara," she said, holding my hands. "He'll take care of you." I wish she'd warned me about his family instead. The problem started the day I met Mama Kemi, Tunde's mother. Tunde took me to the family house in Victoria Island for Sunday lunch. The compound was massive, 3 stories, a swimming pool, marble everywhere. I'd never seen wealth like this up close. "Remember," Tunde whispered as we walked to the door, "my mother can be particular. Just be polite and let her do most of the talking." I should have run right then. Mama Kemi opened the door wearing a designer boo-boo and enough gold jewelry to fund a small business. She looked up and down like I was a stain on her doorstep. "So, you're the girl. Not nice to meet you. Not welcome. Just the girl. Good afternoon, Ma, I said, executing a respectful bow. I'm Amara. Thank you for inviting me to your home. She didn't respond. She just turned and walked inside, leaving me standing at the door. Tunde grabbed my hand and pulled me in. Sorry, he muttered. She's just protective. The lunch was a nightmare. The family sat around a massive dining table. Mama Kemi at one end, Baba Dare, Tunde's father, at the other. Tunde's two older sisters, Fumi and Bisi, sat on one side, wearing matching expressions of bored superiority. Tunde and I sat on the other. A maid, a young girl who couldn't have been more than 16, served the food: jollof rice, fried plantain, chicken stew. It smelled incredible. But before I could take a bite, Mama Kemi spoke. Tunde tells me your mother is a seamstress. It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. Yes, Ma, I said proudly. She's been sewing for 25 years. She's very skilled. She took a delicate bite of rice. And your father? So you're from a broken home. The table went silent. My mother raised me well, Ma. I'm about to graduate with first-class honors in accounting. First class from Unilag, Fumi said, her voice dripping with condescension. How quaint. Bisi giggled. Baba Dare, who'd been quiet this whole time, cleared his throat. First class is first class. That's an accomplishment. For just a moment, his eyes met mine. There was something in his expression I couldn't read, something almost sad? But Mama Kemi steamrolled over him. Tunde, dear, I thought you were seeing that Damalola girl, the one whose father owns the oil company. My stomach dropped. Mama, I told you, Tunde and I are just friends. Amara is my girlfriend. Girlfriend? Mama Kemi repeated, as if the word tasted bad. Tunde, you're 28 years old. You're about to take over a division of your father's company. You need a wife who understands our world, our class, not some— Mama, please, Tunde interrupted, but his voice was weak. I stood up. Thank you for the meal, Ma, but I think I should go. Sit down, Baba Dare said suddenly. His voice was firm, commanding. Kemi, apologize to this young woman. Mama Kemi's mouth fell open. Apologize? Dare, I'm simply being realistic. Apologize. Now. I'd never heard a man speak to his wife like that. The entire table held its breath. Mama Kemi's face tightened. I'm sorry if you were offended, she said through gritted teeth. Classic non-apology. It's fine, I mumbled, sitting back down. But it wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. The rest of the lunch passed in painful silence. When Tunde finally drove me home, I was ready to end the relationship. Amara, I'm so sorry, he said, parking outside my mother's apartment. My mother is just old-fashioned. She'll come around once she gets to know you. Tunde, she called me a girl from a broken home. She basically said I'm not good enough for you. That's not what she meant. That's exactly what she meant. He grabbed my hand. Amara, I love you. My mother's opinion doesn't change that. Please, give her time. Give us time. I looked at his pleading eyes. I thought about my mother's words. He's a good man. I thought about the alternative, going back to the struggle, to the uncertainty, to the endless hustle. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Okay, I said. Time. We got married 6 months later. Mama Kemi tried everything to stop it. She suggested Tunde wait a few more years. She invited other women to family gatherings. She even offered to pay for my master's degree abroad as long as I went alone. But Tunde, for once, stood firm. I'm marrying Amara with or without your blessing. The wedding was small. My side filled 3 rows. Tunde's family took up half the church but looked like they were attending a funeral. Mama Kemi wore black, actually wore black to her son's wedding. But Baba Dare, though, he was different. When he walked me down the aisle, my mother insisted, he whispered, "You're a strong girl, Amara. Don't let anyone make you forget that." At the time, I thought it was just polite encouragement. Now I know it was guilt. The first year of marriage was manageable. Tunde and I rented a small flat in Lekki. He worked at his father's import-export company. I got a job at an accounting firm. We were building our own life, separate from his family's toxicity. Then Mama Kemi got sick. It was just a bad case of malaria, but she milked it like it was stage 4 cancer. She called Tunde crying, saying she needed help around the house because the maids weren't trustworthy. "Can Amara come stay with us for a few weeks?" she asked, "just until I'm back on my feet." I should have said no. But Tunde looked at me with those puppy eyes, and I was trying to be a good wife. "Fine," I said, "a few weeks." Those few weeks turned into 10 years. Living with my husband's family was like being slowly poisoned. It started with small things. Mama Kemi would ask me to help with breakfast since you're up anyway. Then it was washing a few dishes since the maid is busy. Then it was doing the laundry because you do it so much better. Within 3 months, I was doing everything. I cooked 3 meals a day for a family of 6. I cleaned 4 bathrooms. I did everyone's laundry. I went to the market at 5 a.m. to get fresh food. I served dinner and cleared the plates while Tunde's sisters sat on their phones. And I still worked my full-time accounting job. "When are we moving back to our flat?" I asked Tunde after 6 months. "Soon," he said. "Mama just needs a little more help." "Tunde, I'm exhausted. I'm doing everything around here while Fumi and BC do nothing." "They're not used to housework, Amara. You know that." "And I am?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. The worst part wasn't the work, it was the disrespect. Mama Kemi treated me like I was invisible unless she needed something. She'd call me "that girl" when talking to visitors. "That girl will bring the drinks. That girl is in the kitchen." I had a name. I was her son's wife, but to her, I was just the help. Fumi and BC were even worse. They'd leave their dirty clothes on the bathroom floor for me to pick up. They'd dirty dishes right after I'd cleaned. They'd complain about my cooking to Mama Kemi, who'd then criticize me in front of everyone. "Amara, this rice is too hard." "Amara, you use too much salt." "Amara, in this family, we fry plantain a certain way." I stopped fighting back after year 2. What was the point? Tunde never defended me. Baba Dare barely spoke during meals. I was alone in that house. The only thing that kept me going was my mother. I visited her every Sunday after church. She'd gotten older, thinner, but her spirit was still strong. "How are they treating you?" she'd ask every time, her eyes searching my face. "They're fine, Mama," I'd say, lying, "just adjusting." She didn't believe me. "Amara, if that family is making you suffer, you can leave. Come back home. We'll manage." "I'm fine," I'd insist. "Tunde is good to me." Another lie. Tunde had stopped being good to me the moment we moved into his family's house. He transformed from my partner into Mama Kami's son. He took her side in every argument. He expected me to be patient with his sisters. He stopped touching me, stopped talking to me, stopped seeing me. We became roommates who shared a last name. Year 5 was when I realized the truth. This was my life now. This was it. I wasn't going to wake up one day and have Mama Kemi apologize. Tunde wasn't going to suddenly grow a spine. His sisters weren't going to start treating me like family. I was the maid. That was my role. And if I wanted to stay married, I had to accept it. So I did. I stopped asking Tunde to defend me. I stopped expecting respect from his mother. I stopped hoping things would change. I just existed. I woke up at 5 a.m. I cooked, I cleaned, I went to work, I came home, I cooked, I cleaned, I went to bed. Repeat. My friends stopped calling because I was never available. My coworkers stopped inviting me out because I always said no. My mother stopped asking if I was happy because she knew the answer. I became a ghost in my own life. Then, in year 8, my mother died. She'd been sick for 3 months. Cancer, the doctor said. Fast-moving, aggressive. I spent every free moment at the hospital holding her hand, praying for a miracle. Mama Kemi complained about my absences. "Your mother-in-law needs you here, Amara, not running off to hospitals every day." My mother was dying. But that didn't matter to her. When Mama finally passed, I was with her. Her last words were, "Don't let them break you, my daughter. You're stronger than you know." I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow. The funeral was small. Tunde came but left early because Mama needs the car. His family didn't attend at all. Mama Kemi said, "We don't know your people, so it wouldn't be appropriate." I buried my mother with strangers and distant cousins. I came back to the Adiemi house in my black dress, my eyes swollen from crying. Mama Kemi was in the living room watching TV. "Amara, we're having guests tonight," she said without looking up. "Make sure you prepare this special jollof and use the good plates." I stared at her. I just buried my mother. "Yes, and that's very sad, but life goes on. These guests are important clients of Baba's." Something inside me cracked. "I need time to grieve," I said. "You can grieve later. Right now, I need you to—" "My mother is dead," I screamed. "She's dead, and you want me to cook for your guests." Mama Kemi finally looked at me. Her expression was ice cold. "Amara, I understand you're upset, but in this family, we don't bring our personal problems into the home. You married into this family. That means you have responsibilities. If you can't handle them, perhaps you should reconsider your place here." I almost left that night. I almost packed my bags and walked out. But I had nowhere to go. My mother's apartment was already rented to someone else. I'd given up my job the year before because Mama Kemi needed me full-time. I had no savings because every kobo I earned went to household expenses or my mother's medical bills. I was trapped. So I put on my apron, I went to the kitchen, I made the special jollof, and I served it to strangers while my heart broke in silence. That night I prayed for the first time in years. "God, if you're there, I need a sign. I need to know this suffering means something. Please, give me a sign." 2 years later, God answered. Not with mercy, but with a DNA test.
Year 10. Everything changed. Baba Dari collapsed during a business meeting. Heart attack, the doctor said. But when they ran tests, they found something worse. Kidney failure. Advanced stage. He needed a transplant within 6 months, or he'd die. The family went into crisis mode. Fumi and BC were tested first. Neither was a match. Tunde was next. Also not a match. Mama Kemi, of course, wasn't compatible either. "We'll find a donor," Mama Kemi declared. "We'll pay whatever it takes." But weeks turned into months and no donor appeared. Baba Dari's condition deteriorated. He was put on dialysis 3 times a week. He lost weight. His skin turned gray. I'll admit it. I felt sorry for him. Despite everything, Baba Dari had never been cruel to me. He'd never raised his voice. He'd occasionally slipped me money for your troubles. He'd defended me once or twice when Mama Kemi's insults got too harsh. He wasn't good, but he wasn't evil either. So when Mama Kemi asked me to get tested, I said yes. I genuinely thought I wouldn't be a match. I wasn't blood family. This was just a formality to say we'd tried everything. The test took 20 minutes, a blood draw, a cheek swab, done. Results in 2 weeks, the lab technician said. I forgot about it entirely. 2 weeks later, Mama Kami called me into the living room. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else in her expression, something that made my stomach tighten. She said, Amara, you're a match. A perfect match. I blinked. What? The DNA test, you're compatible with Babadare. You can donate your kidney. I sat down slowly. That's impossible. I'm not related to him. There must be a mistake. There's no mistake, Tunde said, walking in with a printout. The hospital confirmed it. You're a 99.9% match. I took the paper from him. My eyes scanned the medical jargon until I found the summary. Patient Amara Adebayo Adeyemi, compatible donor, biological relationship, high probability. Biological relationship? I read out loud. What does that mean? Mama Kami snatched the paper back. It means nothing. Sometimes DNA tests show false positives. The important thing is you can save Baba's life. But if it says biological relationship, Amara, my husband is dying. Are you really going to waste time on paperwork technicalities? I looked at Tunde. Don't you think this is strange? He shifted uncomfortably. Mama's right. The important thing is we found a match. Will you do it? I need time to think. Time? Mama Kami's voice rose. Amara, he has 6 weeks. Maybe less. What is there to think about? It's major surgery. I could die. I could have complications. And if I can't work? We'll take care of everything, Mama Kami said quickly. Medical bills, recovery, everything. Amara, please. You're our only hope. Something about her desperation felt wrong. She'd spent 10 years treating me like garbage, and now I was her only hope? I said I needed to pray about it. Pray? Mama Kami's face turned red. You need to pray about saving your father-in-law's life? I said, he's not my father. The room went silent. Mama Kami stood up, her whole body trembling. Get out. Get out of my sight. Mama, Tunde started. I said, get out. I left. I went to the room Tunde and I shared, though he barely slept there anymore. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall. Biological relationship. What did that mean? The next few days were hell. Mama Kami stopped speaking to me entirely. She'd talk around me, through me, but never to me. Tunde, tell that girl that we're having guests tonight. Fumi, tell that girl that the jollof yesterday was too salty. Tunde begged me constantly. Amara, please, just do the surgery. My father is dying. I said, Tunde, did you read the DNA test? It said biological relationship. Don't you want to know what that means? He insisted. It's a lab error. Tests make mistakes all the time. I said, then let's do another test, a private one, just to be sure. Why? What difference does it make? It makes a difference to me. He walked away. Classic Tunde. But I couldn't let it go. That phrase, biological relationship, haunted me. So I did something I should have done years ago. I went back to the hospital, requested a copy of my test results, and took them to a private lab in Ikeja. I want an independent DNA test, I told the technician. I want to confirm these results. She asked, do you have a sample from the other party? I paused. I didn't, but then I remembered Baba Dare's drinking glass. He had a special cup he used every morning. I'd washed it 1,000 times. I said, I can get one. That night, while everyone was asleep, I snuck into the kitchen. Baba Dare's cup was in the drying rack. I swabbed the rim carefully, sealed it in the bag the lab had given me, and hid it in my purse. The next morning, I dropped it off at the private lab. Results in 5 days, the technician said. Make it 3, I said.
sliding extra money across the counter. 3 days, she confirmed. Those 3 days were the longest of my life. Mama Kami escalated her campaign. She invited family members over to talk sense into me. Tunde's aunts, uncles, cousins, they all cornered me in the living room. Amara, how can you let Babadari die? You're so selfish. After everything this family has done for you? I sat there silently, taking it all, because I knew something was wrong, and I needed proof before I said anything. On day 2, Mama Kami tried a different approach. Amara, she said sweetly, sitting next to me on the couch. I know we've had our differences, but you're family, and family helps family. I didn't respond. If you do the surgery, she continued, I promise things will change. You'll be treated better, with respect, like the daughter-in-law you deserve to be. I looked at her, really looked at her. The desperation in her eyes wasn't just about saving her husband, it was about keeping a secret. I said, I'll think about it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. On day 3, I got the call. Mrs. Adebayo, your results are ready. Can you come to the lab? I left the house without telling anyone. I took a bus to Ikeja, my heart pounding the entire way. The lab technician handed me a sealed envelope. She asked, would you like me to explain the results? I said, just tell me, am I related to this man? She opened the envelope, scanned the document, and looked up at me with wide eyes. Ma'am, according to this test, you share 50% DNA with the subject. That indicates a biological relationship. The room spun. What? I whispered. You're her biological daughter, she said gently. There's no doubt. I sat down before my legs gave out. Babadare was my father. I don't remember leaving the lab. I don't remember the bus ride home. I just remember sitting in that tiny room Tunde and I shared, staring at the DNA report in my hands. Parent-child relationship confirmed, 99.9997%. Baba Dare Adeyemi was my biological father. The man whose floors I'd scrubbed, whose meals I'd cooked, whose wife had tortured me for 10 years. My father. The questions came in a flood. Did he know? Did Mama Kemi know? Why didn't anyone tell me? What happened to my mother? That last question hit me hardest. My mother, the woman who'd raised me alone, worked herself to exhaustion, died without telling me the truth. Why didn't she tell me? I needed answers, but I couldn't ask Babadare. He was barely conscious most days, and I certainly couldn't ask Mama Kemi. So I went to the one place I thought might have answers. My mother's belongings. After she died, I'd packed everything into boxes and stored them in a small storage unit I rented in Yaba. I couldn't bear to throw anything away. Her clothes still smelled like her. Her Bible had notes in the margins. Her jewelry box held the few pieces she owned. I spent hours going through everything, looking for, I didn't even know what. A letter? A photo? Something that explained how my mother, a poor seamstress, ended up pregnant by one of Lagos's wealthiest businessmen. And then I found it. Hidden in a false bottom of her jewelry box was a sealed envelope. My name was written on it, in her handwriting. To Amara, open only if you ever ask about your father. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Amara, if you're reading this, it means you've discovered the truth. And I'm so sorry, my daughter. I'm sorry I didn't tell you while I was alive. I'm sorry I robbed you of knowing your father, but I need you to understand why. I met Dare Adeyemi when I was 22 years old. I was working as a seamstress for his sister. He was already married to Kemi, but their marriage was troubled. She couldn't have children. She blamed him. He blamed her. They stayed together for business, for family, for reputation, but there was no love. Dare was kind to me. He asked about my dreams. He treated me like I mattered. And I, foolish young girl that I was, fell in love with him. Our affair lasted 6 months. When I got pregnant with you, I was terrified, but also secretly happy. I thought maybe he'd leave Kemi. Maybe we'd be a real family. But when I told him, he panicked. Kemi had just announced she was pregnant too. A miracle, the doctor said. If Dare left her now, his family would disown him. His business partners would abandon him. Everything he'd built would crumble. I'll take care of you financially, he promised. You and the baby. But you can't tell anyone I'm the father. I refused his money. I told him I wanted nothing from him except for him to be a father to his child. He said no. So I disappeared. I moved to Surulere. I built a life for us, and I never contacted him again. But Amada, my darling daughter, I need you to know this. Kemi knows. She found out about our affair before I left. She tracked me down 6 months into my pregnancy and made me a deal. If I disappeared and never contacted Dare again, she wouldn't destroy my life. But if I ever tried to claim you as his daughter, she'd make sure I never worked in Lagos again. She'd make sure you grew up in poverty. She'd make sure we both suffered. I took the deal. For you. I don't know if Dare ever told her you were his daughter. I don't even know if he remembers me. But Kemi, she knows exactly who you are. If you're reading this, something has happened that brought you back into their lives. Be careful, my daughter. Kemi Adeyemi is a dangerous woman. She will protect her family's reputation at all costs. But don't be afraid. You are strong, you are smart, and you are worthy of so much more than what they've given you. I love you always, Mama. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat in that storage unit and cried until I had no tears left. Mama Kemi knew. She'd known the entire time I was married to Tunde. She'd known every time she called me that girl. She'd known every time she made me scrub toilets and cook meals and bow my head in shame. She knew I was her husband's daughter, and she punished me for it. The rage that filled me in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever felt. For 10 years, I'd accepted her cruelty because I thought I was beneath her. I thought I deserved it because I was poor, because I was from a broken home, because I wasn't good enough. But that wasn't it at all. She hated me because I was proof of her husband's betrayal. I was the living reminder that he'd loved someone else, that their perfect family was built on lies. And now she needed my kidney to save the man who had abandoned me. The cosmic justice of it was almost beautiful. I went home that night with a plan. Not revenge, justice. I walked into the living room where Mama Kemi, Tunde, Fumi, and Bisi were all sitting, discussing Baba Dare's declining health. "I'll do it," I said. They all turned to look at me. "What?" Mama Kemi said. "I'll donate the kidney, but I have conditions." "Conditions?" Fumi scoffed. "Amara, you don't get to have conditions when someone's dying." "Actually, I do, I said calmly. My body, my kidney, my conditions. Mama Kemi stood up. What do you want? First, I want the surgery done at a private hospital of my choosing, not your family's hospital. Fine. Second, I want all medical expenses and recovery costs paid in advance, including 3 months of my salary since I won't be able to work. Done. Third, I said, pulling out the DNA test results from my bag, I want everyone in this room to read this. I handed the paper to Mama Kemi. Her face went white. What is this? Tunde asked. It's an independent DNA test, confirming that I'm a biological match for Babadare, but not as a daughter-in-law, as his daughter. The room exploded. What? Funmi shrieked. That's impossible, BC said. Tunde grabbed the paper from his mother's frozen hands. He read it, then read it again. Amara, what is this? He whispered. It's the truth your family has been hiding for 30 years. Babadare had an affair with my mother. I'm his biological daughter, and judging by your mother's reaction, she's known all along. Every eye turned to Mama Kemi. She was shaking. This is a lie, a trick. You faked this test to what? I interrupted. To what, Mama Kemi? To save your husband's life? Because that's exactly what I'm offering to do. I'm offering to give my kidney to my father, the father you and he denied me my entire life. Mama, Tunde said quietly, is this true? Mama Kemi's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Answer him, I said. Did you know I was Babadare's daughter when Tunde married me? Silence. Did you know? I shouted. Yes, she screamed. Yes, I knew. I knew exactly who you were. The room went dead silent. I knew the moment Tunde brought you to this house. You look exactly like your mother. Same eyes, same smile. I knew Dade had gotten that woman pregnant. I knew she'd had a girl. And when you showed up, I knew. And you said nothing? Tunde said quietly. What was I supposed to say? Mama Kemi sobbed. That your husband is a cheater? That this girl is your half-sister? That our perfect family is a lie? So you tortured her instead, Funmi said quietly. For the first time in 10 years, she was not looking at me with contempt. She was looking at her mother with something close to disgust. I did what I had to do to protect this family, Mama Kemi yelled. You made me scrub your floors, I said, my voice eerily calm. You made me cook your food. You called me that girl for 10 years, all while knowing I was your husband's daughter. You're not his daughter, Mama Kemi hissed. You're a bastard, a mistake. You don't belong in this family. And yet, I said, smiling coldly, I'm the only one who can save his life. The confrontation should have felt satisfying, but all I felt was empty. I left that night, packed a bag, and checked into a small hotel in Ikeja. I needed space to think, space to breathe, space to figure out what to do next. Because here's the thing, I was still trapped. Yes, I'd exposed the truth. Yes, I'd humiliated Mama Kemi, but I still had no money, no job, nowhere to live. If I walked away from the Adeyemi family now, I'd be exactly where I was before I married Tunde, broke and alone. Except now, I knew I was the daughter of a multimillionaire who denied me my entire life. That's when I called the one person I should have called years ago, a lawyer. Her name was Barrister Ngozi Okafor. I'd seen her on TV once, representing a woman in a massive inheritance case. She was sharp, ruthless, and expensive. I used the last of my savings to pay for a consultation. We met at her office in Victoria Island. Modern glass windows, leather chairs, the smell of expensive coffee. She said, "Tell me everything," pulling out a legal pad. So I did. The affair, the marriage, the 10 years of abuse, the DNA test, the kidney. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. Not a kind smile, a shark's smile. "Mrs. Adeyemi Adebayo," she said, "you just won the lottery." I blinked. "What? Do you know what you have here? You have a biological claim to one of Lagos's largest fortunes. Dade Adeyemi owns 3 companies, multiple properties, investments worth millions of dollars. And as his biological daughter, you're entitled to a share of that estate." "But I never acknowledged me," I said. "I'm not in his will." "Doesn't matter. Nigerian law recognizes biological children regardless of acknowledgement. With that DNA test, you can file a paternity claim, and once paternity is established, you're legally his heir." My heart started racing. How much are we talking? Conservatively, 30 to 40% of his estate. Could be more if we argue you were denied your inheritance through fraudulent concealment. I did the math in my head. 40% of Baba Dade's wealth? Easily 15 to 20 million US dollars? "But there's a complication," Ngozi continued. "He's dying. If he dies before we file the claim, this gets messy. We need him alive to acknowledge you or to contest the will after death. Either way, it's a legal nightmare." "So what do we do?" She leaned forward and said, "We use the kidney as leverage." Here's what Ngozi proposed. Step 1, I agreed to donate the kidney. Step 2, before the surgery, I have Baba Dade sign a legal document acknowledging me as his biological daughter. Step 3, once he's recovered and stable, we file a claim from my portion of the inheritance. Step 4, if the family fights it, we have the signed acknowledgement and the DNA evidence. Open and shut case. "But won't they refuse to let him sign?" I asked. "They might. But here's the thing. He's desperate. He's dying. And you're his only option. If you make the document a condition of the surgery, what choice does he have?" It was brilliant. Cruel, maybe, but brilliant. "What if he refuses?" Ngozi shrugged. "Then he dies, and you walk away with nothing. But something tells me a man facing death will be more honest than a man protecting his reputation." I spent the next week preparing. Ngozi drafted the document. It was simple. I, Dade Adeyemi, acknowledge that Amara Adebayo is my biological daughter from a relationship with Grace Adebayo. I recognize her as my legal heir entitled to all rights and privileges afforded to my children. One signature. That's all I needed. Meanwhile, Tunde called me 47 times. I ignored every call. Mama Kemi sent messages through relatives. "Please, Amara, he's dying." Fumi showed up at my hotel room. "Amara, whatever Mama did, Baba doesn't deserve to die for it." "Why didn't he acknowledge me?" I asked her. "If he knew I was his daughter, why didn't he claim me?" Fumi looked at the ground. Fear? Shame? I don't know. But he's a good man. He doesn't deserve this. "My mother died alone," I said quietly. "She worked herself to death to raise his child, and he gave her nothing. Now you want me to give him my kidney out of the goodness of my heart?" What do you want, Amara? I want justice. 3 weeks after the DNA revelation, I called Mama Kemi. I'll do the surgery, but I have new conditions. Name them. First, Baba Dade signs a legal document acknowledging me as my daughter. Silence. Amara, he's barely conscious. Then get him conscious. Because without that signature, there's no surgery. You'd let him die over a piece of paper? You let me suffer for 10 years over your pride. Yes, Mama Kemi, I'd let him die. She hung up. 4 days later, she called back. He'll sign. The meeting was held in Baba Dade's hospital room. Present, Baba Dade, in bed, oxygen tubes in his nose, Mama Kemi, Tunde, Fumi, Bisi, and Barrister Ngozi. Baba Dade looked at me for a long time. His eyes were watery, tired. Yeah, Amara, I'm sorry. For what? I asked. For everything. For your mother, for not claiming you, for letting Kemi treat you the way she did. You knew how she treated me? Yes, I knew, and I said nothing because I was a coward. The honesty shocked me. Grace was the love of my life, he continued. I've thought about her every day for 30 years. And when Tunde brought you home, I knew. I knew you were mine. But I couldn't admit it. I couldn't lose everything I'd built. So you let me be your maid instead. Yes, and I will regret that until the day I die, which apparently might be soon. Mama Kemi stood in the corner, her face like stone. Will you sign the document? I asked. On one condition, Baba Dade said. You're not in a position to negotiate, Ngozi interjected. Not a negotiation, a request. I want to add a clause that Amara forgives me before I die. I stared at him. You want me to forgive you for abandoning me, for letting your wife torture me? I'm not asking for your love. I'm asking for your mercy. I looked at Mama Kemi. Her eyes were filled with hate, but also fear. She was realizing too late that her cruelty had cost her everything. I looked at Tunde, my husband, who'd stood by and watched. I looked at Fumi and Bisi, who treated me like I was beneath them. And I looked at Baba Dade, my father, weak, dying, finally honest. I'll forgive you, I said, but not today, not until you've earned it. Sign the document, survive the surgery, and spend the rest of your life proving you're worthy of forgiveness. He smiled, a real smile. Fair enough. He signed. The surgery was scheduled for 3 days later. Private hospital, top surgeon, everything paid for in advance, per my conditions. Barrister Ngozi filed the paternity acknowledgement with the court the morning of the surgery. It was now public record. Amara Adebayo was the biological daughter of Dare Adeyemi. The blogs picked it up within hours. Lagos businessman's secret daughter revealed after 30 years. DNA test exposed Adeyemi family secret. The maid who was actually the heir. Mama Kemi tried to do damage control, but it was too late. The story was everywhere. The morning of the surgery, I woke up at 5 a.m. I showered. I prayed. I ate a small breakfast, even though I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't nervous about the surgery. I was nervous about what came after. Ngozi met me at the hospital. Ready? Ready. The pre-op room was freezing. I sat on the bed in my hospital gown waiting. The door opened. Mama Kemi walked in. Can we talk? she asked. Now, I'm about to have major surgery. I know. That's why I need to say this now. She sat in the chair next to my bed. For the first time in 10 years, she looked small. I was wrong, she said, about everything. The way I treated you, the things I said. You didn't deserve it. I waited. But you have to understand, she continued. When Dare told me he'd gotten another woman pregnant, I felt like my world ended. We'd been trying for years to have children. I'd done every treatment, every procedure. And then he has a one-night stand, and it wasn't a one-night stand. He loved my mother. Her jaw tightened. I know. And that's why you hated me. Not because I was proof of his affair, because I was proof he loved someone else. She didn't respond. You could have told me the truth, I said. When Tunde brought me home, you could have pulled me aside and said, you're Dare's daughter. This marriage can't happen. But you didn't. You let me marry him. You let me live here because you wanted to punish me. Yes, she whispered. The honesty caught me off guard. I wanted you to suffer the way I suffered. I wanted you to feel small and worthless and invisible, because that's how Dare made me feel when he chose your mother. He didn't choose her. He chose you. He stayed with you. He built a life with you. He stayed out of obligation, not love. We sat in silence. Do you want my forgiveness? I asked. No, she said. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know. I see you now. I see who you are. And you're nothing like me. You're stronger, kinder. You're the daughter I wish I had. She stood up and walked to the door. Mama Kemi, I called. She turned. I don't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. You're just sad. And I hope someday you find peace. She nodded and left. The surgery took 6 hours. When I woke up in recovery, Ngozi was sitting next to my bed. It's done, she said. Kidneys out, Baba Dare is stable, and the press is going insane. I smiled weakly. Good, she said. There's something else. She pulled out her phone. While you were in surgery, someone leaked the full story. Your mother's letter, the DNA tests, everything. She showed me the headlines. Adeyemi family forced secret daughter to work as maid for 10 years. Wife knew about husband's daughter, tortured her anyway. Amara Adebayo from Maid to Millionaire heiress. Mama Kemi's social media is flooded. People are calling for boycotts of Baba Dare's companies. Fumi and BC have locked their accounts. Tunde is being dragged across every platform. And Baba Dare? Alive, stable, asking to see you. I waited 3 days before I visited him. He was in a private recovery room, looking better than he had in months. The color was back in his face. His eyes were alert. Amara, he said when I walked in, you came. I gave you my kidney. The least you can do is talk to me. He smiled. Fair. I sat in the chair next to his bed. Ngozi says the paternity acknowledgement is filed. I'm officially your legal heir. I know. My lawyers have been calling nonstop. Are you going to fight it? No. You deserve it. You deserve everything I should have given you 30 years ago. I nodded. But I want to make you an offer, not as your father, as a businessman. I'm listening. Stay with the company. Learn the business, not as an employee, as an executive, as my daughter. help me run things. And when I die, you'll inherit not just money, you'll inherit power." I laughed. "You think I want to work for you after everything?" "I think you want justice, and the best justice isn't money. It's watching the family that treated you like a maid call you boss." I hated that he was right. "I'll think about it," I said. The fallout was spectacular. Mama Kemi was charged with fraud and emotional abuse. The case was eventually dropped due to lack of physical evidence, but the court of public opinion destroyed her. She couldn't show her face in Lego society. Her friends abandoned her. Her charity boards kicked her out. Tunde filed for divorce. I didn't fight it. He could keep his last name. I was going back to Adebayo anyway. Fumi and BC tried to apologize. I told them I'd think about accepting once they'd spent 10 years scrubbing toilets. And Babadare, he kept his promise. He put me on the board of directors of his main company, gave me a VP title, a corner office, a salary that made my old accounting job look like pocket change. More importantly, he gave me access to the will. And that's when I found the final secret. 6 months after the surgery, Barrister Ngozi called me into her office. "We need to talk about the will," she said. "What about it?" "Your father updated it 3 weeks after the surgery. You're the primary beneficiary." I blinked. "What about Fumi and BC?" "They get trust funds, comfortable but not controlling. You get 60% of the estate, including majority ownership of all 3 companies." 60%? She nodded. "When he dies, you'll be one of the wealthiest women in Nigeria. We're talking $40 to $50 million USD, plus assets." I sat down slowly. Why would he do that? Guilt, maybe? Or maybe he finally realized you're the daughter who should have inherited all along. But here's the thing about sudden wealth. It doesn't fix the damage. I moved out of the Adeyuni house within a month of the surgery, bought myself a modest flat in Ikui. Nothing ostentatious, just mine. I went back to school, got my master's in business administration, started learning how to actually run a company, not just work for one. And I started therapy. Because 10 years of abuse doesn't disappear just because your bank account has more zeros. My therapist, Dr. Amina, helped me understand something crucial. I wasn't angry because they stole my money. I was angry because they stole my dignity. Wealth can be replaced, she said. Dignity can't. Your healing isn't about getting paid. It's about reclaiming who you were before they broke you. She was right. I saw Mama Kimmy one last time, about a year after the surgery. She was at a grocery store in Victoria Island, looking thin and tired. Her designer clothes were gone. She was wearing a simple Ankara dress and pushing her own cart. She saw me and froze. For a minute, I considered walking away, but something in me needed closure. "Mama Kimmy," I said, walking over. "Amara," her voice was barely a whisper. "How are you?" She laughed bitterly. "How do you think? My husband gave everything to you. My friends won't speak to me. My daughters blame me for ruining the family. So no, Amara, I'm not doing well." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Because you got what you wanted. You destroyed us." "I didn't destroy you," I said calmly. "You destroyed yourself. I just refused to keep being your victim." She looked at me with so much hate. but also so much defeat. "Do you know what the worst part is?" she asked. "I actually respect you now. I hated you for 10 years, and now I realize you were stronger than all of us." "I wasn't strong," I said. "I was surviving. There's a difference." I walked away, and that was the last time I ever saw her. Tunde tried to reconcile once. He showed up at my office, my actual corner office at Adiimi Enterprises, 6 months after the divorce was finalized. "Amara, can we talk?" "We have nothing to talk about." "I made a mistake. I should have defended you. I should have stood up to my mother. I'm sorry." "Tunde, do you know what you're really sorry about? You're sorry I'm rich now. You're sorry I have power. You're not sorry you watched your family torture me. You're sorry you backed the wrong horse." His face went red. "That's not fair." "You're right. Fair would be you spending 10 years as my assistant, taking orders, being called that guy, while I decide if you're good enough to be in my life. But I'm not my mother-in-law. So I'll just say this. Don't contact me again." I had security escort him out. Fumi and BC actually surprised me. A year after everything, they requested a meeting, professional, at the office. "We want to apologize," Fumi said. "Not because we want your money. We know we don't deserve anything from you. But because what we did was wrong. How we treated you was wrong." "Why now?" I asked. "Because we've spent the last year working normal jobs. No family money, no trust funds, just us trying to survive. And we finally understand what you went through." And it's hell," Fumi admitted. "We were awful to you, entitled, cruel, and we're sorry." I looked at them, really looked at them. They'd lost weight. Their designer clothes were gone. They looked humbled. "Thank you for apologizing," I said. "I accept it. But that doesn't mean I trust you. That doesn't mean we're family. We understand. However, I'm not my mother-in-law. I won't punish you forever. Prove you've changed, and maybe someday we can have a relationship. But you have to earn it." They nodded and left. And Baba Dare, he lived for another 3 years after the surgery. We had a complicated relationship. He tried to be a father. He invited me to family dinners. He asked about my life. He offered advice. But I couldn't forget that he'd waited until he was dying to acknowledge me. Still, I showed up. I learned the business. I sat through meetings and board presentations and corporate strategy sessions. Because I wasn't doing it for him. I was doing it for my mother. Every time I sat in that boardroom, I thought about her, sewing clothes by candlelight, working herself to death, dying alone. "This is for you, Mama," I'd whisper. "We made it." Baba Dare died peacefully in his sleep on a Tuesday morning. The funeral was massive. Politicians, business leaders, society people, everyone wanted to pay respects. I gave the eulogy. Dare Adeyemi was many things: a businessman, a husband, a father. He was also a coward. He abandoned me when I needed him most. But in his final years, he tried to make it right. He gave me opportunities. He acknowledged his mistakes. He died knowing I forgave him. It was a lie. I never fully forgave him, but it felt like the right thing to say. When the will was read, there were no surprises. I got 60% of everything, controlling interest in all three companies, properties, investments, the family house. Total value, $47 million USD. Fumi and BC got trust funds worth $2 million each. Mama Kimmy got a small pension and a property in Abuja. The press went wild. From Maid to mogul, Amara Adeyemi's incredible journey. Inheritance justice. Secret daughter inherits $47 million fortune. How DNA tests changed one woman's life. I didn't read the articles. I didn't care about the headlines. I cared about one thing. I was free.
So, what did I learn from this DNA test that exposed my husband's family secret? 3 things. First, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. For 10 years, my husband's family treated me like a maid, like I was worthless. I believed them. I internalized their cruelty. But the truth was, I was always valuable. I was always worthy. The DNA test didn't make me worthy. It just proved what I should have always known. Second, toxic people will reveal themselves when they need something. Mama Kimmy hated me for a decade, but the moment she needed my kidney, suddenly I mattered. That's how toxic family members operate. You're only valuable when you're useful. Remember that. Third, justice isn't always revenge. Sometimes it's just truth. I didn't destroy the Adeyemi family. The truth destroyed them. The DNA test didn't expose a scandal. It exposed their character. And that's the most powerful weapon you can have, the truth. Today, I run 3 companies. I've donated millions to charities supporting single mothers. I've set up scholarships for girls from broken homes. I've built the life my mother dreamed of for me. And whenever I walk into a boardroom full of powerful men, I think about Mama Kimmy calling me that girl. Because I'm not that girl anymore. I'm the CEO. I'm the majority shareholder. I'm the woman who went from scrubbing floors to signing checks. And that, dear friends, is how karma catches up with toxic in-laws. If you've been treated like you don't matter, I want you to hear this. You matter. Your DNA doesn't determine your worth. Your bank account doesn't determine your worth. Your family's opinion doesn't determine your worth. You determine your worth. Share your story in the comments below. Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? Have you experienced toxic in-laws or family betrayal? You're not alone. Subscribe to Auntie Whispers for true stories of family drama, inheritance battles, and cosmic justice every day. Hit that bell so you never miss a story. And remember, the truth will always set you free. Even when it's painful, even when it's messy, the truth is worth it. Next week, I'll share the story of a woman whose mother-in-law tried to kidnap her children during a custody battle. What she did next shocked the entire courtroom. Until then, stay strong, trust yourself, and never let anyone make you feel small. This is Auntie Whispers reminding you, family should lift you up, not tear you down. And if they can't do that, you have permission to walk away